Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, January 11th. Back from vacation this weekend and obviously today. Uh, Skipped a couple days, I think, last week with videos because it was kind of on and off all week last week, doing some skiing, trying to get a little bit of time away from the screen. So that worked out really well. So back in full action today. However, this video will be short today because we are doing a member webinar on the market webs indicator. So we're going to talk about, what the market webs are telling us for the year of 2021, which we have not done yet because again I was out last week. But so that'll be good. And then we do this webinar at the beginning of every month where we talk about not only the monthly value areas, but also for the on the daily chart, but also for the week, right? So this value area. So we'll be going through some stocks, some sectors. Should be really interesting. We're doing that at 5 o'clock. So as you can tell, I'm talking a little bit quick. I did want to just cover quickly my thoughts for the day. Some of the price action. You could see that SPY. We haven't had too many of these days recently, but we did have some things fall a little bit. SPY was down fractionally for the day, down about 70 basis points. Qs were hit a little bit harder today in some momentum areas like Tesla, Bitcoin. The Qs finished down 1.5, basically 1.5% for the day. IWM was the bright spot that rallied from where that started for the day. Remember, at the beginning of the day, small caps were your worst sector, and they actually climbed all the way back, almost made it back to flat for the day. So pretty impressive there. Bonds didn't really care too much about today. Down 17 basis points. There was no major bid, no risk off there in terms of the bonds. However, in the VIX, decent move up in the VIX today, up 11.8%. But when you look at it, move back to 24 in the VIX. So we can kind of look we'll go over to the daily chart here for the VIX. We saw this last week too, and that fizzled pretty quickly. So I don't know if that will be the same issue or the same pattern. If we go back to the S&P chart, one of the things that I want to talk about here before we go into sectors, might as well do that this way. Not much of no major technical damage, I would say, in the S&P. It felt a little bit like last Monday, just because, I don't know, last Monday was down, but, we didn't really get hit that hard. Nothing, we didn't lose the 5-day moving average. We're still above value. If we turn over to the 1 hour, a level that I had sent out both to members as well as on public Twitter is this value area. We're still holding 37.90. So I don't know, if that's going to hold in the overnight session. I didn't really do much end of day dip buying. I did that in the beginning of the day. But I didn't really do that at the end of the day because, sometimes I just like to kind of sit and watch a little bit and wait for a little bit of confirmation. And we're too close to this top of value for me to really stick my neck out and say, hey, I'm going to buy the dip when we're really not down that much. All right. So again, sometimes patience is best. One of the things that I talked about too late in the day on Friday was that, we're just in the beginning of the month. I think a lot of traders had some good first of the weeks in terms of January, but it's only 1 week, right? Pace yourself. You don't need to prove anything here in the first couple weeks. Sometimes I do that too. I'm like, hey, I want to keep the ball rolling and so forth, but pace yourself. We are just in the beginning of the month, right? And by the way, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any recommendations or advice, anything like that. So, yeah, there's a great level to watch here. I can't put it in another way. We need to hold this 37.90. If not, we could really start slipping into this value area. We had a false move in here around 8 o'clock this morning, got back above and hung in there. If we go over to the Qs, again, they slipped a bit more, but they've got support down at 313. So that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right? And that also, closed right around that 5-day moving average. The 5-day moving average that I've got highlighted there is important to me because it's the short-term trend, right? So if we can go down, if we hold that, we still have the short-term momentum on our side. IWM, by the way, again, that's a really nice looking bar, I think, for that closing, around the highs of the session. I'm almost positive for the day. All right, so that's IWM. TLT, just to kind of go over bonds. If we glance over at sectors, and then I'll talk a little bit about today's option activity, some odd ball sectors, I would say. You had the pot stocks, a name like GRWG was very strong today, up 13%. So there's still momentum in, where you can find it, basically. But this is one name that's my favorite of the group. But this was your best performer on the day, pot stocks. And then you had also oil and gas names that were up. So I like to refer to them as dirty energy. I don't know, it's just catchy. I don't really want to say dirty energy, but we know clean energy, that's the PBW ETF. Those groups took a little bit of the day off. Remember, they were up between the solar ETF, which was down 3% for the which was down 3% for the day. The solar ETF, I'm trying to remember from last week what the performance was, but I think around up 15%. PBW was actually up for the day. Look at that. So maybe NEO helped that name a little bit today. But all in all, for these groups to be giving a little bit of breather, you kind of want them to, right? If you're looking to kind of get involved in some of these areas on a pullback, you do want these to come in a little bit. What else didn't perform today? The KWEB ETF, that was down 3.5%. A lot of international ETFs are down today because they do have US dollar exposure, right? That was also a big theme for the day, right? It kind of felt like at some point we were going to get a bounce in the dollar. So this is important. This is probably one of the most important things I'll talk about in this video, is that I think the dollar was due for a bounce. You have a bullish divergence here, right? As price made this new low. Right, so let me concentrate on the top graph here of the chart. Price made a new low, right? You could see last week. What didn't make a new low? The RSI, right? So you have a bullish divergence, right? The RSI made a new low back on 1217, but this last move down, it didn't. That's what's known as a bullish divergence. If you're not sure what that means, Google it. Google bullish RSI divergence, right? But that can sometimes mean that a reversal is coming. At least a bounce, right, which is what we got today. Now, again, remember the dollar implications, right? We saw a lot of people talking about emerging market ETFs. Any of these ETFs, unless they specifically say so, they are short the US dollar, right? Because they're holding local securities for the most part. So, if you're looking, you're like, hey, why did this KWEB ETF go down so much? It's down 3.4%. Well, part of that is the US dollar. Okay, and that's the same thing with EEM. That's the same thing with EFA. They were all down today because of that. So remember, with that trade, just as long as you know what you're doing, right? Any of these international ETFs, they are short the U.S. dollar. So you could see the performance; they've been very strong. Part of that is because of the weaker dollar, right? When you're short something, it goes down. Your price action goes up. Okay. Now there are some ETFs that do hedge them out, right? HEDJ is one of them, right? So you can see that it hasn't been as strong. That was still down, by the way, for the day. So Europe was weak today. All right, guys. So that's my quick 2-minute explanation on that. Other sectors, the banks were strong. They were strong all day today. They finished up 2.5%. So again, really depending what you owned for the day. Like I noticed for a while, like I got out of my CSX position today. That actually gave back some profits. So that looks like the right thing to do. But I think GM was a name that closed on the highs today. Not a bad looking chart. A lot of interesting things kind of for the day, right? A lot of option activity. This was one name that saw a lot of option activity. But all kinds of different names. NMDM, saw some calls. This one I'm long. I got long this one even though it did not close where I bought it, so I'm down a little bit in that name. The couple of the semiconductors, NVIDIA will kind of have to wait to see if this is a real move for the day. It did not close on the highs. It hit a high of around 554. However, it is above value. So I did get into this NVIDIA. My stop will be back inside value. So if this breaks value, right, 537 is the number. But I'm interested in this name because it really hasn't done that much, and it's coming out of the coil. It had a false breakdown. Maybe this is the time for this one to get going. We'll see. 537 is the bogey. As long as it stays above there, I will try going long. AMD was also an interesting one. Hit an all-time high today, but backed off. Did not close there. So we'll see. Again, above value is good enough for me, right? A close above value, that's a good thing. Would I have liked to see it close on the highs? Sure. This one I chased a little bit. It's one of those things, too, for me that this AMD has been tricky. I don't, if you look at some of the other semiconductors, I've talked about this before, it's not been one of the best performers. Applied Materials, Lam Research, these Teradyne, Taiwan Semiconductor, right? Those are your leaders in the semis. AMD, made a big move, but months ago, right? So it's been a tricky name. But maybe it's time for it to go and do something fun. So I'm in that a little bit. So again, I had to chase that one a little bit because I was not long coming into today for that one. But I want to see, So I'm for me, it's okay to put on a little bit of a trade there in that space. Palantir is an interesting one. Just kind of cover a couple names in here. It did close in value. Did it close above value for the day? Oh, look at that! It did close. I think I'm should be looking at the 5-minute. No, it did not close above value for the day. So the level to watch for tomorrow is 26.24. If you caught it on the lows, congratulations. But if not, it stalled out here a bit. Also, the casino names, they were pretty strong today. New York may be getting sports gambling. Another interesting one to watch for tomorrow is Draftkings. It did close above value. I like easy setups. So if this thing's going to go, you could take a position in it and use right around a $53 stop, right? And if you lose, it won't be a lot, right? Which is what I what I refer to as a simple setup. TENB saw call activity today. Right? This is, if you're not familiar with this name, it is a software cyber name. Kind of interesting. Nice call buyer in this one today. A few other ones. VFF, right? Saw some calls today. I don't think this thing closed on the highs. Close. VFF, Village Farms, right? Has seen a lot of option activity, some decent amount, over 6,000 of the February 15 strike calls last time I checked. Williams-Sonoma saw some calls today. I did take a little bit of a position in this one. However, it didn't close above value. So we'll see. It's pretty darn close. I think similarly, Home Depot had a shot today too. And that couldn't get through value either. So, you have to be careful of intraday moves. You get real excited sometimes around 12 o'clock, and they don't close where they should. Again, for me, just a quick explanation here, which we're going to be going over in today's webinar. I want to see a break out of the range. The value areas provide, good information about the range, right? So this is based on price, volume, and time of the last period, which is in here, right? So for the month of December, right? So what we want to see is for the price to get above the significant levels for where it traded in December, right? That level is right around 272 for Home Depot. So keep that one on your list. It's trying, it's interesting, but it's not there yet. Very, very close. So we'll watch that one for tomorrow. SQM is another one. Saw a whole bunch of call activity. So I'm giving you kind of, guys, a free pass of what we do during the day. What I normally do is do a, take some trades, obviously, that I think set up. We go through option activity, and I use option activity as a filter, right? We see a lot of option trades. We can't take them all. What my expertise is to apply some of the names that we see, aggressive option activity, and I look for the setup. So this one's another interesting one, SQM, right? This is, I believe, a little bit of a lithium name. They actually do a few other things too. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. There's a couple other names to watch too, but I've got to run to the member webinar. If you are not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, what I would do is sign up, go to my profile, the pinned link, and you can click on that and you can become a member and you can join us for the 5 o'clock webinar. It will be recorded, and we've got a bunch of other fun things going on too. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.